Hello folks, I hope that you're having just a great day today and keeping yourself safe in our modern COVID world. Today I've got something really pleasurable for you today that I'm just really excited to bring to you. We're going to head back to Clark Ashton Smith. He's a writer who I've done a lot of stories of, and the reason why I've done a lot of his stories is because I think he's one of the more underappreciated writers of the pulp era. He was a big writer, he wrote a lot of stuff, he was very, very influential. And in fact, I found a story recently while watching a video that said that one of the stories that Clark Ashton Smith wrote for Weird Tales in the early 30s began this trope of gargoyles as a sort of monster, a magical creature that's an obstacle that must be overcome. So I did some research and I found out that that's actually true. And so I wanted to read that story. It's actually in this collection that I have. About 4 or 5 months ago, I wanted to own all the Clark Ashton Smith stories, knowing that at some point in time I'd want to really dedicate myself to them. And there is a 5-volume set that is published by Nightshade Books. I'll link you to this one in the comments below. This is actually the 3rd book in that collection. And it's called A Vintage from Atlantis. It collects all of Clark Ashton Smith's books chronologically, so you can get all of his short stories that are in there, starting from the first ones that he wrote. This is about 31 to about early 32 to late 32, and it includes the Maker of Gargoyles, which we're going to be taking a look at. But after doing some research, yeah, the YouTube writer was right. This thing actually is the first appearance of gargoyles as an opponent, as an animated creature, as magical. And so one of the things I wanted to do was I definitely wanted to read this story. So in this story, it's set in Clark Ashton Smith's Auvergne world, which I actually wanted to read all the stories in, and I haven't read any yet, so I was very happy to knock one out. This is in early medieval France, in the 1100s, in southern France, and it's a magical, chaotic time during the Middle Ages, and specifically in the earlier ones. So it's a good time to set a set of stories in. This area and these works are such a big hit with people that read later on that it actually became very influential in Dungeons & Dragons. And you can see this specific world of Auvergne is in the module for Dungeons & Dragons called Castle Amber, which is one of the most successful and biggest hits in Dungeons & Dragons, and one that has a lot of fans. It's actually set in Auvergne and introduces it as an alternative plane to the Dungeons & Dragons universe. So you can actually go there and experience it. So I really wanted to read a story, or the stories that are set there, and this is my first one, The Maker of Gargoyles. And so I was really happy to knock this story out. My collection is about 12 pages long. I read it one night this is a bigger collection, so it took me about 2 or 3 minutes a page to knock it out. It took me about 25 minutes, maybe half an hour to knock it out, and I just took it out one night. And I was really happy that I did just a few days ago. So now I've gotten a chance to read it, absorb it, do some research on it, and I wanted to bring it to you today. So in case you want to check out the very first gargoyle story, you could do that with Clark Ashton Smith's The Maker of Gargoyles. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start with a synopsis of the story. In this story, you're going to find out that the leader of the story is a person who, your protagonist that you're going to be following along, is a sculptor in a village, and he has just recently sculpted a pair of really well done gargoyles for the local cathedral. And he's gotten a lot of accolades because of how well done they are, but he's also gotten some dark rumors because of how grotesque and gothic they are. One of them is kind of a lion-like creature, and the other one is a satyr with bat-like wings. And so they both have very different looks to them, and there's a lot of rumors that this is really grotesque, really wrong. But the people that are in charge of the cathedral, that are running things, that brought him in, they definitely see the art to this. And remember, gargoyles are supposed to be grotesque. That's the point of a gargoyle, right? But the argument from some of the locals is that this goes too far. So that's the question. What's going on? Because of this creation, unfortunately, our protagonist is ostracized by a lot of the people. He was ostracized when he was growing up. He actually left this town. It's his hometown. He left to go somewhere else. He decided to come back because of his lust for a local barmaid that he really likes, that he hangs out in the bar with and spends some time looking at her, ogling her, and trying to get her attention and that sort of thing. So that's kind of who our protagonist is. He's a little bit of a loner. a sculptor, an artist, and a recluse who's been ostracized by his town. So what happens when some creatures, some demons, start to attack the town itself, and then let loose, and that's going to happen about page 3 or 4. You're going to see the first attack that's going to happen in the town itself. You're going to follow along with what happens, who's happening in it, what's happening, and so forth. So you'll follow along with that structure, and then it'll resolve about 12 pages later. So I'll go ahead and leave the synopsis for you. I do think this is a very well-written story by Clark Ashton Smith. He is a writer who is one of the big hits during the pulp era. He is one of the big 3 for Weird Tales magazine. And this is a Weird Tales story for you from the early 30s that he wrote and published. And I do like it. It's well written. I give it an 8 out of 10. It's strong and it's well done, and I do enjoy it. I do think he broadcasts what's going to happen a little bit too much, but hey, that's how it is. One of the physical characteristics, the satyr bat-winged gargoyle, looks exactly like the gargoyle that was introduced to a lot of fans in the 70s with the Dungeons & Dragons game, and Gary Gygax, who created a lot of those sorts of characters and brought them in. So, of course, one of the things I wonder, and the modern gargoyles in fantasy definitely look and feel like the gargoyles in Clark Ashton Smith's story. So if you want to find out where that came from, you can definitely take a look at Clark Ashton Smith. Now, this is not the first Clark Ashton Smith story that I've done for you where he has created a subtrope of modern fantasy fiction. In the Empire of the Necromancers, that's sort of the first Necromancer kingdom, where you have all these animated undead that are serving necromancers. And that sort of trope of fantasy is also created by Clark Ashton Smith. And it's not his last either. So there you are. There's the Maker of Gargoyles, and I'll go ahead and leave it to you. Have you read the Maker of Gargoyles? What'd you think of it? Did you like it or dislike it? Just let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. If you want to discuss anything, I'll be more than happy to do that with you in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please feel encouraged to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be so many more of these to follow. And finally, I just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day and investing it in my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have a great day.